Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I want to show you another quick project. Today it is a needle case. This is one that I made myself. I had one several years ago that a friend gave me that was made out of cross-stitch fabric, and she had cross-stitched a little design on it, and over the years I've lost it, but it came in really handy. And the last couple months I've had a need for one, so I decided to make a new one, and I came up with a pattern that I think works pretty well. At least it works well for me, so I thought I would share it. So just stay tuned and I'll show you the supplies you need for this project. Okay, here are the supplies that you need to make this needle case. You'll start off with a piece of Peltex. This is a heavy weight fusible interfacing, and you want the kind that is fusible on both sides. And you can get Peltex that has no fusible on it. You can get it that is fusible on one side, and then this kind which is fusible on both sides. This is the one you want. You want two pieces of fabric that are also 4.5 by 6.5 inches. So these all three measure the same. You want a piece of batting, and this batting is 3 by 5. You want a button for a closure, and then you want some round elastic to make this closure here, or you can use a ponytail holder. If you have elastic ponytail holders around your house, you can use those. I know round elastic is a little hard to come by right now, so if you can't find that, see if you can find ponytail holders. But anyway, either one will work. And what we're going to do first is we're going to fuse the fabric to the Peltex. Now for the batting, you'll want to use either an 80-20 or 100% cotton batting. You could also use felt or fleece, just something that's easy for you to put your needle in. Okay, on this case here, I have my blue fabric on the outside and a pink fabric on the inside, and then I have my piece of batting where I'm placing my needles. And it just closes with a button and a piece of round elastic. And I just went through my button stash and found a fun button to put on there. So, and then the elastic ties in a knot and is stitched on the back. And the edges are finished. Mine are finished with a zigzag. So you could do a serger, or you could do a satin stitch. You could bind this if you want. There's lots of different ways that you could finish this. First thing I'm going to do is to lay a piece of muslin down, and then I'm going to put one piece of fabric face down, then add the Peltex on top, and then another piece of fabric, the other piece of fabric on top of that. And I'm trying to keep all the edges lined up, and I'm using the fabric because the fusible may show on the outside and it will stick to whatever is covering it, and I don't want it to stick to my iron, so I'm going to go ahead and cover that. And what you can do is just trim down your Peltex a little bit. We're going to trim this whole project down after we get this fused, but for right now I think this will work. So we're going to cover that again, and now I'm going to fuse this down, and just follow the instructions that come with your Peltex. Now there's probably other names for this, so depending on your area, this may be called something else, but the Peltex is made by Pellon. And so I'm going to hold pressure and heat on this for 10 seconds in each section, and I'm also giving it a little steam. Now this will just fuse one side. I think I'm about out of water, that's why my iron is beeping. So let's see how that went. Move that out of the way. And that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to flip it over and do this side. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's already fused, but I'm going to go ahead and add heat to this just to make sure. Now, using the steam will help that fuse both sides at the same time. If you don't use steam, then you definitely will need to flip it over and fuse both sides. Okay, now here we go. Now I need to trim this down, but I want this to cool off first, so I'm going to give it a couple seconds to cool off. And now I want to trim it down to size. What I want to trim it down to is 4 by 6. So we have a 1/2 inch extra. And I'm going to trim off about 1/4 inch on each side. And I'm not measuring that. I'm just keeping one side straight so that it all comes out square. So there's 1/4 inch, and I'm going to flip it to the other side and then make sure I'm on my 4-inch mark, and so now I know I have a 4-inch width. And then I'm going to turn it 1/4 turn and trim a little bit off this edge. And then we'll turn it and trim it down to 6 inches. And I'm doing my best to keep this all squared up. There we go. Okay. Now I have the size I want. Okay, next thing I want to do is to finish off the edges. So I am going to do a dense zigzag stitch all the way around. So let's go to the sewing machine and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, you want to set your sewing machine up to do a zigzag stitch, and you can make that as dense or as loose as you want. I have mine set at 3.0 for the width and 0.8 for the length. And I'm just going to zigzag off the edge and then onto the project. And then we're just going to let this go all the way down. And I'm just going to zigzag all the way off the end and then just turn the project and then go on down the next side. And then if you want to, you can backstitch. Okay, I have this all bound now with the zigzag stitch around the edges. So now I have to decide which is going to be the inside and which is going to be the outside. And I think I'm going to use this as the outside because it's going to go well with my red buttons. So I want to measure in 3 inches to find the center, since this is 6 inches wide. And I'm just going to make a little mark on both ends here, and then I'm going to center my piece of batting, and now I'm going to stitch all the way across from this mark to that mark. And I'm going to remove my 1/4 inch foot because it has this flange here, and this will catch on the batting and bunch it up and tear it up, and so I don't want that. And I'm going to switch over to my regular presser foot. There we go. And then I'm just going to stitch straight down. And I am going to back stitch. And I'm just taking my time. And you want to make sure you have a heavy needle in here, like a 1490 needle or 16100. You need a heavy needle for that. Now I've got the stitching here on the back. It's also on the front, and I want to fold that right along that stitching line. And I'm also going to take this to my iron, and I'm going to press this to help encourage it to close and stay closed a little bit better. So I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and fold that and just give it a little steam. And with use, this will tend to stay closed, but when it's brand new like this, it's going to want to open. And when it's warm, it's a little malleable, so you can, you know, get it to do what you want it to. So that works a lot better. And give that a few seconds to cool off, and now I want to put on the button and the elastic loop. Okay, now I have that pressed and it's wanting to stay closed now, but I still want a button closure on mine, so I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle, and I have a heavy-duty tapestry needle here in my other needle case. You can see that's a pretty heavy-duty needle, and I want some thread, and you can use matching thread or you can use a contrasting thread. And I'm going to use some of my long arm thread. This is Long Arm Professional by YLI, and this is called Santa's Coat. It's a nice cheery red, and I'm going to thread my needle, and it has a nice big eye. And we're just going to hand sew this button on. Now you can also sew this by machine, and so I would just follow the directions on your machine on how to machine sew a button on. And I'm going to get my thimble this is my hand sewing case. This is where I keep a lot of my hand sewing supplies. It's just a little pencil case is what it is. And I've got my thimble, and I'm going to place the needle where I want it, and see, this is 4 inches across, and I'm going to mark right there is kind of the center. And I'm going to mark the holes. And I'm not going to see these very well because it's dark fabric in there, but I can see the marks I made, and I'm going to line those up the best that I can, and I'm going to keep my batting out of the way, and I'm going to attach my needle. I got to find the holes. Now this is a very long needle, so it's a little harder to use just because of the length of the needle. There we go. And Peltex is not difficult to sew through. I'm going to stand up and do this because I cannot see myself in the camera. So here we go. I have my first pass, and I'm going to go through the back. I can see where my knot was, so I can go through real close to that. And I'm not making this really tight because I'm going to wrap the thread underneath the button when I get through. And once again, I'll come through the bottom You can see that it's coming through. The difficult part for me is the length of this needle. It's a lot longer than a sharp's that I usually hand sew with. And getting used to that length is the hard part. Okay, now I'm going to go between the button and the case. So I can get the needle to do that for me. I keep poking the fabric. Okay, and now I'm going to wrap this around a couple of times. So I've wrapped that around a few times, and now I'm going to go back through here, and now I'm going to knot that. Okay, so now I have my button secure. Now I need to put the loop on. Okay, cut your length of elastic about 6 inches, 6 to 7 inches. So basically it is the width of your case wrapped around with a little extra. And this is going to be more than what you need. But find the center of the, bring your two ends together to make a loop, and wrap it around your button, and then pull it to the back, and that'll show you how much you need. So I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot in here, make it loose, bring it to the back, and then tighten it. And you got to decide where you want to stitch this. I don't want to stitch it way up here. I want to stitch it closer to the edge, so I'm sliding the knot down and tightening it up. And now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, and then I'm going to stitch over and across this a couple of times with just a plain straight stitch. So I'm going to hold this elastic in place on the back, and then I'm going to release it from the button. And keeping it in place, I'm going to open my case, make sure I have my batting out of the way. And now I want to stitch right in front of that knot. I'm going to go back and forth a couple of times, and you can use, and I think I'm going to use my zipper foot, so I want to get fairly close to that. So if I can do this one-handed. There we go. Okay, that should do it. Okay, here we go. And I can bring that elastic around the front to help keep it secure. And then I have some long ends on the back, and I can trim those down. Just like that. So here you go. I've got 2 different needle cases now. I can keep one in my hand sewing bag, and I can keep one down here at my sewing machine, and I've got my needles handy whenever I need to do a little bit of hand sewing. Well, I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you'll give it a try and make a couple of needle cases for yourself and for your friends. And if you like this video, please click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and click the notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you are all staying safe and staying healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.